Well, good day. So with all this Halloweeny stuff kind of going on around here, I would like to talk about one of the most classic and iconic movie monsters that has ever seen the screen. And oh indeed, I am talking about Frankenstein. But not quite the classic one, kind of quite just yet. Anyway, I'm talking about the movie that happened like 20 years prior to this one. It was a silent movie, but it was the first time we ever seen the Frankenstein monster and old Frankenstein story on screen. So that's what I'm gonna talk about. So alright, let's go.
Alright, so this story starts off with like no delay, right? As we have a young Mr. Frankenstein getting ready to head off to college. He says goodbye to his special lady and his dad, and just like that, boom, he's gone, right? And even with less delay, man, we suddenly jump 2 years into the future where college student Frankenstein has found the mystery of life. Or of life creation, like however you look at it, right? He's all super excited and stuff. He writes a letter to his sweetheart back home that he's doing some pretty fancy stuff, like medically. And then, bam, gets busy on making life, which sounds like a metaphor for sex, but no. Dude does some like hocus pocus stuff, man. Like he's tossing a whole bunch of ingredients to a cauldron, which is in a closet. He closes the door and takes a look at what's going inside, and it's basically like, yeah, sure, life is happening, man, but it's growing slowly, like it's some freaking chia pet or something, right? Or like those spongy foam toys that you toss in water and it slowly expands, to make like a dinosaur or something. It's like that, but super creepy. And so creepy it is. How creepy is it? So creepy that college student Frankenstein is totally appalled and horrified by this monstrosity that he created. Like he just takes off out of that room, right? He's trying to come to grips with what he's done, but the creature walks into the room and is basically like, "Oh hey Dad, how are you doing? By the way, thanks for making me alive and stuff, really appreciate it, feels good." But the good student just totally freaks out and passes out, which startles the creature, so like he takes off. So quickly, Dr. Frankenstein goes back home where he can hopefully, go back to resuming a normal life. Or can he? Nay! Because the creature goes to his house, man, like he knows where he lives. Well, I guess he does. He's totally jealous that Dr. Frankenstein has it all, right? A home, a family, a cute girlfriend to squeeze, during those cold winter days. Like the creature has nothing, right? And worse yet, he sees himself in the mirror for the very first time, and he is even horrified by himself. He takes off again, right? So Dr. Frankenstein now has some quiet time again, with the creature gone and all that stuff. So he decides to get married, which is pretty awesome. And as the good doctor is about ready to, consummate the marriage and all that there, eh? That's when the creature breaks into the house and attacks the new Mrs. Frankenstein. I'm assuming she took his name anyway. But Dr. Frankenstein fights him off. The creature flees, right? Like, I guess he doesn't want too much of a confrontation. As the creature is fleeing, he goes into the main study room and he sees himself in the mirror again, and he just disappears into the mirror? What? And he's in the mirror, like freaking out, and then he just disappears. What? Okay, I have to watch this again, because am I missing something here? Okay, let me take a look. Yeah, okay, he sees himself in the mirror. Yeah, he's okay. His real self is gone, but he's still in the mirror. And yeah, blip, he's gone. What? Well, that was quite a subversion of expectations, I guess. Well, I guess that's pretty convenient for Dr. Frankenstein not having to worry about this creature that did him a solid by just disappearing. But, well, I guess it's a happy ending for the Doctor and the Mrs. Doctor, so it's all pretty hip. And with that, that is the end of this fantastic tale.
Yeah, so, like, that was a movie, right? So yeah, like, it was actually pretty interesting, I thought. Like, I am a big fan of movies from back in the day, and even the further back in the day you go, like, the more different and unique type of movie telling you would see. Like when it comes to other silent movies, you know, kind of like this one here, like you have had some incredibly iconic movies from that time period. Like Metropolis, man, like that thing is still a kick-ass movie. And if we're talking, you know, Hollywood monsters and stuff like that for Halloween, well, Phantom of the Opera is a phenomenal movie, man. Those movies were great because earlier movies like this one really kind of got a lot of the kinks out for Hollywood, and they kind of figured things out better for storytelling and special effects and whatnot. The special effects in this one are pretty neat, I thought. Like, we're talking 1910 visual effects in a movie. So the whole creation of a creature was obviously a scene that was, you know, they filmed something burning and falling apart, but they just reversed the film, so like it looks like it's being built back on itself, which looked really creepy, which, you know, is the point, and it still looked pretty good, I think, for what they could do back in those days. And then the other effects of the creature's costume. Yeah. But even like, oh man, it's just, I don't know, it just didn't seem right. Like, you can definitely tell he was wearing a helmet instead of a wig, you know, kind of going on there. But that ending, right? That ending, the dude just disappeared. Like, what? I can't even make heads or tails out of that. Well, I kind of did. I have a few theories. This was a lost episode of Star Trek The Next Generation where Lieutenant Commander Data was using the hologram to kind of explore humanity and stuff like that, you know, to kind of learn humanity better. And he went in the guise of the Frankenstein creature, and well, there was some mission that happened, you know, like in a nebula, so he had to cut the whole thing short, so he just disappeared. But from the point of view of Dr. Frankenstein, it's like, oh my god, he just disappeared, what happened? That's more plausible? But the thing that makes the most sense was that the creature was not built by science, like as you've kind of read in the book, but was more built by like the occult or like witchcraft, you know? And when I'm talking about witchcraft, yeah, I'm talking about pop culture kind of witchcraft, you know, with like the flying brooms and like the cauldrons and the kind of stuff going on there, right? Because as I say, the creature was not built by science, he was built in a cauldron with just some ingredients tossed in there, and then at the end, it's like the magic just wore off, I guess. He didn't use enough garlic in there or something, I don't know. Other than that, like, again, I'm still amazed. Like, this is from 110 years ago, man. Like, but still, like, for what it is, man, like, it's still really awesome, right? Again, that's probably just the historian and me really enjoying seeing something this old, like being, you know, pretty good. And I really did love the book, so I guess I kind of knew what was going on when things happened, I guess. But, you know, other than that, if you haven't seen it and if you want to check it out, 15 minutes long, man. It's not gonna take up much of your time. You can find it on this YouTube here, there, so yeah, you can go ahead and do that. But other than that, there's some more things going on kind of behind the scenes, so we can take a look at more things about the movie and all that kind of stuff going on here.
So, yeah, what an interesting movie, eh? But first, let's sneak back a little bit more to the very beginning. So, clearly, this movie is based on Mary Shelley's classic book from 1818, titled Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus. And this movie, you know, isn't a complete adaptation of the book, but it does focus solely on the story beats from the book where the Frankenstein creature and Dr. Frankenstein interact and actually meet up with each other. Well, you know, for the most part, even though this movie does skip over, let's say, 97% of the book, but what they do include in the movie, you know, does somewhat follow the book. You know, obviously, except for the ending and some stuff, but it is what it is. So, a seemingly random but also awesome part of the movie is that it was produced by Edison Studios, which is part of Edison Manufacturing Company, where the Edison in these companies are definitely of Thomas Edison, the famous inventor and entrepreneur. One of his entrepreneurial exploits was basically to create like an early version of Hollywood, but out in New Jersey and New York, where this featured Frankenstein 1910 movie came from, and which has since always been referred to as Edison's Frankenstein, which is, you know, random, but pretty cool. And I think we can all figure out that this movie gets completely completely overshadowed by the legendary 1931 Frankenstein movie and all of its sequels, whereas that Frankenstein creature has become the quintessential version of the character, and our long-haired hippie version of the creature from this featured movie is kind of left in the dust. But even though Karloff's version is still the standard for the creature, it is kind of funny that the Edison version of the creature is more accurate to the book version of that creature than any other version in film. Like in the book and in this movie, the creature is quite tall, he has long black hair and has a yellowish colored skin, not the classic green skin. Skin tone is kind of hard to tell in this movie, but you know, it's totally true. And you can see in the movie, even though it's a silent movie, that the creature does talk a lot more in this one, much like he did in the book, and not just like, "Rah, me Frankenstein," but like actual full sentences. You can see he's having conversations with Dr. Frankenstein in this film, which he does in the book. And when I say this movie was left in the dust, it almost pretty much was. It was considered lost to the world, as all known copies of the film were completely gone or destroyed somehow, or with age or whatever. Luckily enough though, there is a interesting person who is a film collector. His name is Alois Detlef. Gosh, I hope I say that name right. And he collected all sorts of old movies, and one of them was this 1910 Frankenstein movie. So it is kind of funny because he knew that he had this film, but he didn't realize it was basically the last version of the film on the entire planet, right? So he kind of reluctantly made the movie available to more people starting in the 1970s. And yeah, and this guy was kind of a recluse and kind of didn't want people to share his collection, so there's more to it than this, but at least we're able to see the film, right? So it's all hip in the end, I guess. And even though this version of the creature was overshadowed and almost forgotten, he still does live on hither and thither, and he is slowly kind of gaining popularity. Like for example, in 2003, there was a graphic novel, kind of comic book, and it did have a much more fleshed out story based on the themes from the Edison movie that kind of differed from the book, right? For example, like in the book, the creature became more violent towards society after society has rejected him and became violent towards him. He's like, what's the point of me caring about these people if they don't care about me? Whereas in the movie, the creature became violent towards Dr. Frankenstein after he became jealous of Dr. Frankenstein. You know, like there is differences in there. There was some other memorabilia created for this monster, including a couple of pretty cool kind of figurine statues. There's this one from Monstrology Models, which kind of has a pretty good look of the creature. And there is also a version from Cinema Art Models where the creature is standing in front of that infamous mirror. But you can tell that the skin tone in this is more of the yellowish, which is kind of like I was saying earlier, that the creature does have a yellowish skin. Also, for some insane reason, Aztec Toys created a reimagined, horrifying version of the 1910 Edison Frankenstein creature. It's basically a random reference to a random reference. But the creature looks nothing like in the film, but he is standing in front of the creation chamber where he first emerged from in the film, kind of tying that in together a bit there, but nothing else is the same. But still, with all that, it's still neat to see this creature and this film really start to get kind of more recognition. Can't say it'll ever surpass the Boris Karloff version, but still, if you're a Frankenstein fan like me, it's pretty cool stuff to see. Yeah, but yeah, with this, that, those, and the other things, I guess that's that. Right on, and there you go. So thanks for watching the video. I hope you liked it as much as I did making it. Also, feel free to check out the source material that I featured in this video. And if you want to leave a comment on anything you may have liked or things I might have missed in this, feel free to do so. Or anything else, just to say hi. That's cool too. And other than that, have a great day. Thanks.